Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of childhood trauma, emotional and verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental health and medication, family conflict and divorce, custody issues, estrangement from family, grief and loss, and toxic family members. Our goal is to share real-life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well-being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember, this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back to Radiant Resilience. I am here today with my good friend, Michelle Golden. She is a fellow hairdresser of mine. We met just a couple years ago, I think. She's been in the hair industry for 17 years, born and raised in Iowa, mother of one, our dearest Amber. We love her. And married for 23 years. So we don't really have a solid plan for this conversation. We're just going to see how things go. I know a little bit about your story and you've given me a little bits and pieces here and there, but yeah, let's start off with how you're doing. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so
Good.
good. I can't believe it's already the middle of April. This year's going so fast.
I know, flying
Yeah.
by, crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know, do you want to start with a little bit about yourself and your childhood, and then
Yeah.
we can do a deep dive into some of the harder stuff?
Yes. Let's go
Right.
deep. No, I'm kidding.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh God, where do I start? I am the oldest of four.
Mhm.
My childhood, God, this is gonna get hard.
You only have to talk about
Right.
what you're comfortable with, so.
Right. I would say probably the beginning of my childhood was good.
Okay.
It was between the ages of 12 and up is where it started to get really crazy.
What happened
Uh,
when you were 12? What started that chapter, do you think? Is there
let's
something that
see,
stands
12.
out?
Yeah, so 12 was when my parents put me on Ritalin. So that was the beginning stages of ADD, and it wasn't the hyper part of it. It was I just couldn't concentrate. And so I was falling really behind in school for the longest time. I will tell everybody now, like I suck at words and I suck at spelling. So that kind of always felt very, I'm trying to think of a word, setback in a way. But also at the same time, I was having people around me, teachers included, that you're never going to amount to anything. You're just gonna be the bum of the world, that kind of thing. So
When
it
you were,
started.
what was this,
Yeah.
like sixth grade?
Yep. Yeah. I would say it may even happened earlier. I remember I had one teacher. It was either fifth or sixth grade, and she was just the meanest teacher ever. And that's when I noticed that I felt different. But was it because I was being told I wasn't good enough? Or was it I was just different because my brain thought differently?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you put that stigma of you suck, you're never going to amount to anything, why can't you read at a better level, why can't you focus when you take tests, all those things as a young kid, because we're so innocent and like we just absorb that stuff. That's what set me to the point of where I thought my self-esteem just wasn't there. You know what I mean?
And prior to that, were your parents still married or were they?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So your
Yep. Yep.
parents were
Yep.
most of your child, or at least up until this point
Yeah.
where
Yep.
everybody was still married, everybody was
Yep.
happy,
Yep.
good.
Everybody was semi-happy.
What is the age difference between you and your youngest sibling?
Let's see, it goes me and then my sister. We are 5 years apart. And then my other sister, I want to say 8.
Mhm.
And then my youngest, her and I are almost 11 years. It's like
Okay.
between, yeah, like 10 and a half
Okay.
difference. So, yep.
Do you remember any of them having any issues with any ADD or like later on, or was it mostly just you?
It was mostly me. As
Oh,
far as I know, I was, let's see, I'm trying to think. It was me, my one sister, and then my other sister, and obviously trying to keep names out. But
yeah, sure.
like they were so young that with me, it was just start. This was late 80s, early 90s. Like it was just starting to come out about ADD and ADHD and
Hmm.
put kids on Ritalin.
And that was a common solution, right? We were just like,
Exactly.
okay,
Yeah,
you have ADD or you have
exactly.
ADHD, let's medicate.
Yep, exactly.
So how was
Uh,
that being on? Do you remember the effects of being on that?
I do. Yep. I was very skinny.
Mm.
I didn't sleep.
Oh, wow.
And to get like really woohooey, I would have very vivid dreams of people dying.
Oh, wow.
And I still every once in a while have them. My littlest sister told me once that our family had witches clear back in the olden days. And then that's why I have sometimes have these premonitions, but it
Mm.
started when I went on the Ritalin.
Oh, interesting. Do you think
You
puberty
know,
had anything to do with that too?
could be, you never know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. They were probably both roughly the same time.
And it's always family members. It's never a friend.
Mm.
It's never a client now. It's always been family members.
Wow.
So and my recent one was last year. And then 6 months later, she was gone.
Oh,
Like,
wow. So
still
these are
have it
like dreams you're having that actually happen?
happen. Yeah, almost like a premonition. But I
Oh,
remember them starting shortly after starting the Ritalin.
oh, wow. That's crazy. Okay. So you start Ritalin and then we can
Whether
dive
they are
into
together, I
we
don't
can
know.
dive into those dreams more if you want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's
So,
crazy.
yeah, it's definitely weird. I know people always ask me, if you ever dream about me, I'm like, don't worry, I won't, because it's always family members.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, continue with
Anyway,
your story from the Ritalin
yes.
at 12.
So I took Ritalin till about my summer of my freshman year of high school. We moved around a lot. And so that was me wanting to try it on my own. I had a little bit more confidence that, okay, I can do this. I don't suck, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
Yes, I struggle with words and spelling and reading and that kind of thing, but I don't suck. And so I went through high school without Ritalin. I wasn't the best,
Okay.
but I got through it. It's
What type
fine.
of things do you remember struggling with for those, if in
Tests.
case someone's listening that
Yeah.
is struggling, like what, yeah, tests and like
Tests,
the
math,
pressure, the,
all of it. Yeah. I was basically raising my 3 siblings
mm,
with my parents working. So I was driving them, taking them places, watching them. So I had to grow up really fast.
mm,
And then I would say I was 14. Now this is where it's going to get deep.
mm.
And if it's a trigger to anybody, I'm really sorry.
It's okay. I
Yeah.
do trigger warnings at the beginning of
You
every
probably should do
episode.
that. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay. So at 14, I was molested by a family member.
Mm, I'm so
And
sorry.
not it didn't necessarily break me, but it made me realize that I couldn't depend on anybody but myself
Mm,
because of how things happened.
mhm,
And at 14, this is late 90s, there wasn't a Me Too movement yet. There was no, it's safe to come out and tell people. I literally told my mom the next day, and I was told, you can't tell your dad because he'll go kill him. Your grandma will die and have a heart attack. It'll be all over the news. It's going to ruin the family
Oh,
at 14.
oh, Michelle.
And back then, I had a pretty decent relationship with my mom because I was 14. I didn't know any better.
Sure.
But I found out really fast that I was the only one that could protect me. So I
And
never
you're
went
at
to
that age, you're supposed to be able to rely on your parents for that to
yeah,
protect you.
exactly. Yep. Looking back at it now, it's made me who I am today. It's made me strong. It's made me strong for Amber. It's made me a better mom to Amber. For a really long time, I never wanted kids. And because from that point of 14 and realizing, okay, my own mother can't even protect me or doesn't want to do it, because we'll get into a little bit more later.
Yeah.
I realized really fast that I don't have the skills to be a good mom to somebody else. Now, 20 years later, she's amazing. And
she's an
my
amazing
husband
kid.
and I did an amazing job. So
yes, I would agree.
But I broke that cycle too.
Yes, which is huge.
And I think a lot of it doesn't get talked about a lot. The effects, not only on me, but like my siblings. My sister, who was born after me, we had a conversation years ago and we were just talking about the past. And I said, we all lived through it at the same time, but we all experienced it totally different.
I think that's so interesting. I think families and kids can be such a fascinating thing to study because you're all growing up in the same environment, right? Because I look back at my childhood too, because I have my sister that's 4 years younger and then my other sister that's 12 years younger. And our parents' divorce happened when I was 19, my middle sister was 15, and my youngest sister was 7. Yep, 7. Had to make sure my math was right there.
Yep.
But it's so interesting to look at all three of us coming from the same environment, basically, before my parents got divorced.
Yep.
And then seeing how that affected all of us differently. And I know personality is a bit of a variable in there as well, but it's so interesting because you're at different stages of your life and everybody just gets affected so differently and processes things differently. And I think it's so fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It very much, and it like, I don't even know how to say it. Looking back at it now, what gets me through it or gets me a different mindset is I stopped it when I did. I know this is fast forwarding a little bit. I went off to college after I graduated high school, and my birthday always falls on Labor Day weekend. And I happened to come back, and my sister was sending me messages like, hey, things are getting really bad. I need you to come home. I need your help. Usually I could come home and just have a conversation with my mom and, okay, like, this is what's happening. This is how they're feeling, blah, blah, blah. The two little ones were so little. They were maybe, God, 6 and 3, 6 and 4, 6 and 8, in that age range.
Yeah.
To where they don't remember it how we do.
Sure. Yeah.
So I came home, I knocked on the door, I could hear screaming outside, like just bloody murder screaming. And I knocked on the door, I opened it, and my mom's getting ready to beat the crap out of my sister. And all I did was look at her and went, you're done. And she knew exactly what that meant. So that was 5 years after it happened. So I waited 5 years to tell my dad
about the molestation.
Yep.
So maybe let's backtrack because we don't get like all over the place. That's okay. No, it's good. We'll come back to that story. So you tell your mom.
Yep.
She says, keep your mouth shut.
Yep. Basically. Yep.
Okay. Then what?
Yep. Literally went through the next 4 years trying to survive.
How do you think emotionally that affected you throughout your teen years. Obviously, it had to have had a huge effect. So, did it affect your relationships with not just family, but friends, relationships with boys? Talk a little
Oh,
bit about
absolutely.
that.
Yeah. So after it happened, I never went back to my grandparents' house.
Mm.
And I guess I just opened the bag on that one, didn't I? I didn't go back unless both parents were there.
Is that where it
And
happened?
no, actually, it happened in a car.
Oh.
And so,
So why,
obviously
what was your grandparents' tie to that then?
it was my grandfather.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. Nope, it's fine. I don't even care.
I don't think I ever knew that, so I'm
Yep,
really sorry
yep.
about that.
Turns out he's not really blood related. He was a step grandfather.
Oh, that's plot
So it gets
twist.
even more juicy.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna get sidetracked in all of
I
these
know,
stories.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. That's
How much time do
crazy.
you
When
have?
did you find that out?
After my parents divorced.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
We'll keep going.
So
So you
anyway,
never went back to your grandparents' house.
never went back to we as kids, we always went to our grandparents for the summer and basically spent all summer with our grandparents, and everything was fine until the year I was 14. After that, now going backwards, he didn't rape me. I was fine, but it was still traumatic.
Yeah.
Still something that I didn't ask for. It's still something that to this day that they all lie about. And so if Amber came up to me and said, even if it wasn't a family member, I would be all over it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if I went to jail. Like, we're not going to let this slide for 5 years, kind of thing, or more.
Yeah.
Honestly, through high school, I was very distant. I was just trying to survive because I didn't know who I could trust. I did have a couple boyfriends here and there. My husband and I didn't meet until I was 17. We started dating when I turned 18 and been together since. I told him probably a month into our relationship, and he knew. You can always tell if somebody's been hurt.
Mm.
And so he knew something had happened. He thought it was actually somebody else.
Okay.
And so when I told him, he was like, I knew something happened. So I don't know if just me being shy and timid and scared of my own shadow and not trusting anybody, if that gave it away, or the people who have been hurt the most can usually tell about another human being.
Yeah.
Because we have similar qualities or similar things that we just pick up on, that we can sense it. And we may not come out and be like, oh, hey, Susie Q, like, how's life? And then you build that relationship and you start talking about it eventually. But there's something that connects us as humans that we can just tell. And so that was something that when my husband and I first started dating, he was like, I knew there was something, I just didn't know who.
Yeah.
That weekend that I came home for Labor Day weekend and I walked in on my mom beating my sister up, all I said was, you're done. And she knew exactly what it meant. She packed everything up, left the kids.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I was supposed to work that night at the restaurant that my husband was running because he needed extra help for servers. I called him and I went, shit just hit the fan.
Yeah.
I'm going to be late. And he knew exactly what it meant. I didn't even have to tell him. He just said, don't worry about it. I called my dad. I said, I'm taking the kids to so-and-so's house, which was a family friend. I said, Mom's gone. Walked in on her beating the crap out of my sister. I need you to come and grab the kids because I have to go to work. And my dad's a farmer for Iowa State University. And so he was harvesting. Worst timing ever.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So he had to stop what he was doing, come get the kids. I said, when I get off work, I'll come home and I'll tell you what happened. I came home after work. Hubby was with me and told him everything. And he was like, I knew something happened. I just didn't know
Mm.
what.
Oh,
There
so
was
he knew
something that,
too.
yep. You think about it, this is early 90s, late 90s. It wasn't talked about. There was no, when at 14 and your mom, who at the time is your best friend, is telling you, do not tell your dad, he's going to go kill him, which then he'll go to jail. It's going to be on the news. It's going to ruin the family.
Mm.
Yeah, of course I didn't tell him.
Yeah, sure. You're supposed to follow what your parents tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
And
You
it was
know,
probably already hard enough for you to come clean to your mom.
yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. And I was worried about my siblings. Like I told my sister who was born after me, I was like, hey, this happened. Has anything like this happened to you? Thank God she said no. The two younger ones, I couldn't ask them yet because they were so
Yeah.
little. I didn't know how to.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God it didn't happen to the second born, but it still changed us,
Sure.
you know? Yeah. Oh my God. I feel like I'm just puking everything out.
It's okay. I
That's
hope
okay.
as long as you feel okay with it.
Yep.
So when did your parents get divorced?
The weekend I came home and I walked in on my mom beating my sister, and I said, "You're done." She left the kids there. My parents were divorced a month later.
Okay, so they were still together then.
Yep.
Had your
Things
mom
were
been abusive before?
not physically. There was a little bit of a verbally abuse to me, and there was very much controlling, and you have to take your siblings to here. You need to cook for them. You need to do the house chores. So there wasn't necessarily like physical abuse. There were some verbally abuse. That day that I came home was probably the worst of it, where
Mm-hmm.
there was both physically and verbally. I still remember to this day my the third born sister screaming bloody murder
Mm.
because my mom said, "I wish I never had you,"
To your sister,
to all of us,
to all of you. So this was once
all
you
of us.
got there.
Yep. I wish I never had you guys.
Oh, Michelle.
So when we met at Soul Tribe Retreat,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the one that was blubbering baby because something just clicked,
Mm.
that was the emotion. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine saying that to Amber.
Oh. I mean,
Any,
did that come out of nowhere? Were you guys not expecting that at all? Or had she been distancing herself at all?
she had been distancing us a little bit. So once she left, I was able to get on the family computer, and I had found emails, text messages to family members, to friends of I'm getting ready to leave. And so I think it had been planned a little bit. I don't think she was quite ready, but
Yeah.
me walking in set it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does
And the
she?
fact that she just left all three kids there and just packed up and literally grabbed her bag and left, and then said, "I wish I never had any of you."
How old was the youngest at that time?
Oh God. Let's see. This was in
At like
2001.
6, 7?
So yeah, maybe
Oh,
eight at the 8 or 9 at the most.
not that it changes the effect for you at all as an
Right.
adult,
Yeah.
but to be 6 or 7 and be told you were unwanted by your
Yeah.
mom. I think being a little bit older and having a little bit more life experience, you maybe can process that differently and acknowledge that, okay, mom's just crazy. And of course,
Right.
that's still hurtful,
Yes.
but God, I just can't even imagine for your
Right.
younger sibling,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
four of you. I just can't even imagine. And then why, I'm sorry, why have 4 children if you didn't want any of them?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's just
Exactly.
mind blowing to me.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, continue.
So, okay. So, yeah, they divorced a month shy after that happened. So, I would say November of 2001.
What was your dad's reaction to that?
So, when I came home for Labor Day weekend and walked in on her and my sister,
Yeah.
he was working.
Okay.
So I had to call him and say, you need to come
Right.
home. And that night that I came after work and was like,
Told
this
him
is what
everything.
happened. He said, I knew something happened. I just didn't know what, because I changed. I got distant. I got
Sure.
very, quiet and all the things. After the fact, it was, in my eyes, my perception, how I saw my dad was, okay, now I need to protect my kids, obviously, because where did she run to?
Mm.
Her parents. Dragged us through, all four of us, through the divorce.
Mhm.
That was fun.
Yeah.
At one point, I had custody of them
Wow. And
for
you
a little
were
bit.
like
I was
19?
19, yeah. This is 2001. Yep,
Wow. So you
yep,
had custody of all your
for a little bit.
siblings.
Yep, for a little bit.
Wow. That's a
And
lot of
it was
responsibility.
maybe only like a weekend,
Still.
but still, yeah. And so unfortunately, to make this a little shorter, but unfortunately, so the divorce happened. I had to get on stand, tell what happened. Everybody on her side got on stand, basically said I was lying. They had 5 different stories.
Oh my
One
God.
was that my husband is making me say this. And I was like, my husband and I weren't even together when it happened.
So
I
they're
hadn't even
making you
known him yet.
in the divorce, they're making you get on the stand and talk
Yep.
about the molestation.
Yep. I remember very vividly her lawyer was like, did you tell your mom? I said, yeah, I told her the next day. And he was like, well, what did she say? And I said, this and this. Don't say anything. Your dad's going to kill him. Grandma's going to have a heart attack. It's going to be on the news. It's going to ruin the family. And he goes, do you always listen to your parents? And I went, at 14, I did.
Heck yeah.
Now I don't. Because
Oh
she's
man.
psycho. Anyway, so oh God. So that was 2021. My 2 younger siblings had visitation with him. I had the sister who was born after me at my apartment. And my mom brought her mom and her stepdad to go pick them up.
The younger ones?
And, yep. And all hell broke loose because she brought the pedophile, and words were said supposedly, like, my dad had a unloaded gun in his back, and he pulled it out and said, if you don't get off my property, which that landed him in jail for the
Mm.
weekend. And so the 2 younger ones, obviously, I'm old enough, I'm smart enough to know and understand that was probably very traumatic for them.
Yeah.
But my mom used it to her advantage. So the 2 younger ones don't have a relationship with my dad, which is very sad because my youngest sister just had a baby. And so it's the second grandchild of the Goldens. It was just sad all around because I haven't had any contact with my mom in 4 years.
Mm.
And that was really hard to really decide because I had opened that door just a crack to try, and I just kept getting hurt.
Mm.
And you just get to that point where you're like, why do I keep doing this?
Yeah. Fair.
This is
Yeah.
stupid. Why am I doing this?
Well,
So
my guess is that you were hoping that at some point you would have the mom that you always
yeah,
wanted, right? There's
absolutely.
always that
Yep.
hope.
Yep.
So you were
Absolutely.
holding on to that.
Yep. And
And
we've
to let
had,
go of that is a huge loss.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like when my parents were going through divorce, we had to have court ordered therapy, and you're sitting across from each other, and the therapist, I love him, was like, what do you want to tell your mom? And I said, you know what I want. I want you to apologize, and I want you to actually mean it. I want you to make me believe that the things that happened and things that you did, that you are truly sorry for. And if I find out that it happened to the 2 younger ones, I'm coming after you. And she goes, I'm not going to apologize for something that never happened.
Oh, Michelle.
At that point, that was my clue that relationship was over, obviously.
I'm so sorry.
At that point, I did not talk to her for a really long time. I would say probably 5 or 6 years,
Wow.
give or take. And then my youngest sister sent me a message and was like, hey, mom's going through another divorce because she remarried. Would you consider doing her hair?
Oh.
And that was me opening the door, just a crack. However, I worked right next to a bar.
Okay.
So the day that she came in, I went next door and took 2 shots of tequila.
Well, sometimes we got to do that.
Because I was like, how am I going to get through this? I haven't talked to her in so long. And the last thing I said to her, and the last thing she said to me, like, how am I going to get through this? I did get through it, treated her just like a client. Because at that point, she was not really my mom anymore. I had grieved that loss then.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
This was after the therapy session?
Yeah. Yep. So this is probably like 5 years after the divorce, give or take. Did her hair for a little bit. She would come and go, always would want to talk about the past and how good it was. Not good. Not what I remember.
Yeah.
But yeah. She disappeared for a while, came back. My littlest sister got married shortly after COVID in 2020 reopened. I was asked to come to the wedding and to bring Amber and hair. My sister who was born after me did makeup, and everything was fine. Everything was fine. We were getting along, being civil, and get to the location where the wedding is at. And my grandmother, so my mom's mom, is sitting there. Amber's standing next to me. She looks at me and said, what are you doing here?
Oh.
I was invited and I did everybody's hair, even my mom's.
Yeah.
Then looked up and down at me, looked at Amber and went, who are you? And I went, this is Amber. This is your great granddaughter. First time Amber's meeting any of my side of the family.
Wow.
And that's what you say to her. And I went, this is Amber. She's your first great granddaughter. And I don't understand why you guys are here.
Wow.
So see, I'm the black sheep. I'm the one that destroyed the family because I opened my mouth and told Dad and they got divorced. But see, how I think about it and what gets me through is I stopped it.
Yeah.
I stopped it from continuing to happen. So I must have had a really bad look on my face when my grandmother said that at the wedding.
Yeah.
Amber took my arm, literally, walked me out the door. And I looked at her and I said, that is exactly why you are here, is to get me out of here when I need to. I stayed for the wedding and then we left. And that was basically the last time I talked to or saw my mom. And there's been no communication. Granted, I did block her on social media.
Fair.
But she's tried to reach out to Amber a couple times, and Amber's, I don't really care. Like, you've not been in my life ever. So what, like,
why now?
Why now? It's just sad because most people, and I'm sorry if this is a trigger, like they have their mom in the birthing center giving birth. They have a wedding and their mom is walks you down the aisle. Your dad walks you down the aisle, like all those things that, and not that I'm sad that I didn't get them, but at the same time, I didn't get to experience any of that. You know what I mean?
That's a huge loss, though.
It's a huge loss.
It's grieving what could have been, what would have been, and I'm
Yeah.
sure seeing others go through
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
brought on some feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been told by people that I tell my story to, it doesn't bother me that I talk about it because it is who I am.
Mm,
It's made me stronger now. Yes, is she my mom? Absolutely. But at what point, and this, I know this is not talked about enough. I see videos every once in a while of at what point when the kids stop talking or stop contact with a parent because of something that has happened or was done to them, when do we become a, I don't know, society or human race or just somebody who has compassion of,
mm,
yeah, she's your mom, but that doesn't give her the right to have a relationship with you.
mm-hmm.
She knows what I want. I'm never going to get it. And I had to, what's the word? Realization that
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to get that apology.
Mm,
She could watch this video that, or hear this podcast and come to me and it's not going to be sincere. I know it's not
mm.
because she knows what I'm saying it,
Yeah.
but it's been how many years? I was 14 and they divorced in 2001 and I'm 42. How many? 24 years, 25 years. Like, it's never going to happen. And so, like, when people say, but she's your mom, well, yeah, she is, but I'm also her kid. And what does that tell you of her character?
And if she's been a toxic human in your life,
Yeah.
I don't know your mom. All I
Yeah.
know is
Yeah.
what
Yeah. Yeah.
you've told me. But
Yes.
if she's been a toxic human in your
Yeah.
life, just because she's your mom
Yep.
does not mean she gets the right
Yep.
to your life.
Any of it. Yeah.
Why would you want to continue to live that
In
I
that
guess
lie. Yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
it? I don't know, but I would think it'd be more hurtful to have her in your life constantly hurting you over and
Mhm.
over with the hope that she's maybe going to turn over a new leaf
Yep.
than to just say enough is enough. And I know that had to be a really hard
Yep.
thing because of course you want your mom in your life, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And I did. And like me opening that door was okay, let's try, let's
Hmm.
see.
Hmm.
And what did it bring me?
Mm.
More pain.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to get to a certain point in your mental capacity or whatever that, and your heart that, okay, if I continue down this path of hurtfulness, whichever way it is, whether it's physical, emotional, verbal, whatever, where's that going to get me? It's going to make me a crappy mom to Amber because that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm learning
Mm. Yeah.
versus me going, okay, we're done. Like, you can't do this to me anymore.
Yeah.
Now I can focus on my business
Hmm.
and Amber.
So
Like,
when you became a mom to Amber,
yes.
were there things going through your head reflecting on, obviously, most people here know that I've struggled with infertility. I don't
Yeah.
know when this episode's going to air and when I'm going to share my whole story. I don't know exactly those feelings, but I'm assuming that I think we all look back on our childhood and go, what would I do differently? What would I do the same? So for you, what were some of the things specifically when you got pregnant with Amber and you were like, oh, I need to break this cycle? What
Yep.
things popped into your head?
Yeah. I was scared to death.
Mm,
Like I said earlier, I didn't want kids.
mm,
And not even so much of I didn't know how to be a mom. It was I raised my siblings for the most part. So
So you
I
did know
felt
how to be a mom to some degree.
yes,
Mhm.
but in my mind, I was more of a babysitter.
Mm,
I was more, and it could just be how things happened back then. Like my sister, after me, that was born at the time, we lived in Arizona because my dad was going to Arizona State, and I was watching her at a newborn. And Tucson
Mm-hmm.
and we're 5 years apart.
Yeah.
Five or
Wow.
six, I was watching her
Wow.
while they were gone. So that's how I knew how to be a mom, was
Mhm.
I was a babysitter. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. You learned
So
that at an earlier age than the rest of
yeah,
us.
yeah, exactly. So her was
Breastfeed.
born. She was a preemie. She was in the hospital for 2 weeks.
Man.
Put her on my chest for 2 seconds, realized she wasn't breathing
Mm.
because she was a preemie, took her off. So I didn't get that now where moms get the skin to skin. I wasn't able to breastfeed because she was a month and a half early. So I wasn't even producing
Wow.
anything. So I didn't get that mom, baby, daughter connection right away.
Yeah.
And especially with her being in the hospital for 2 weeks, she was hooked up to
Oh.
everything. And so there was no really holding her. There was, other than like my pinky around her hand. And there's a picture of me. I went back. Okay, don't ever do this. I went back to work after 2 weeks after having Amber.
Oh,
Don't ever
wow.
do that. Don't be like me.
Mhm.
There was a picture of me. I had just got off of work and I'm holding Amber in a rocking chair and I just look like death
Mm.
and miserable. And like, I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, what am I doing? And I remember it. Like, what
Mm.
am I doing? Like, I'm not a mom. I don't know how to be a mom. I know how to take care of other people because I did it with my siblings. I know how to keep her alive, but
Yeah.
that's about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, even stemming from my mom's relationship with me and vice versa, as Amber started growing older and I was working full time nights and weekends. So, a lot of things I missed when she was younger, but I didn't have that mental capacity of being a mom back then, which sucks. It sucks.
Mhm.
But now that she's older and I was able to learn how to be a mom in that time frame from birth to now she's 20,
Mhm.
almost 21. Her and I have a really good relationship. And people tell us all the time, oh my God, you guys are the cutest and
Yes.
you guys look so close. Like, I was talking to her this morning, just checking in. And so having that relationship now, it wasn't always great when she was little, but knowing, okay, I don't want it to be like me and my mom
Mm-hmm.
or my husband and his mom. Like, they don't have a great relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Do what I can do best with her.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Being a cycle breaker is huge. There's,
Exactly.
it's
Yep.
very hard to do. And there is, as much as we don't want to admit it, there is a lot of our parents in us. And
Oh God. Yes.
we all, it's true. Be like,
Yes.
oh, I'll say to Colin sometimes, I'm like, oh, there's your dad coming out.
Right. And there are
uh,
things that like I will say, or if I'm mad, my foot will move. It's because I learned it from my mom. Or there's things that I'll say and I'll say it a certain way. I'm like, oh my God.
it
Sound just
happens.
like my mother. And then
Yeah.
I'll look at Amber, I'll go, I'm so sorry. No, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh.
And then there's things that I got from my dad too. I got a really strong work ethic
Mm.
because I saw how hard he worked.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't home a lot, but he was always working. And so I got to go to his place once where he was working and help him. And I saw how hard he worked. And he's got a master's. And so,
Mm.
like, that to me is very important too, because we tell Amber all the time, like, you have to put the work in to get where you are.
Yeah.
And that's still, even today, I wouldn't be a 6-figure stylist if I just went.
100%. Yeah.
And so having that skill or mindset of I have to work hard from my dad and not seeing it from my mom helped maybe a little bit balance it out a little bit, just a
Yeah.
little.
So where are you now? How do you feel about not having those relationships or where your life's at now. And you obviously feel really good about your relationship with Amber and
Yes. I had to be okay with not getting an apology.
that's hard.
Um, that was very hard.
Mm,
And I had to learn to be okay with what relationship I do have with my siblings.
mm-hmm.
So
Some
two
are good
young,
and some are not good, right?
yeah.
Depending on the sibling. Yeah.
They come to me to get their hair done, which is amazing.
Okay.
And that's about as far as it's gotten, just because we're all busy in life and we're in totally different life cycles,
Mm-hmm.
or not cycles, but life stages. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when everything was going down, I was just in college. And then as time goes on, I'm a mom and running a business, and they're still young enough to like, hey, let's go get a drink and have a party and things like that. Versus
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go to bed at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Same.
So
Yep.
I'm honestly, I am really good, especially with Soul Tribe Retreat, getting those emotions out, even though I didn't realize that I had them. But
Mm.
whatever Kristen had said during her meditation popped it out.
She's amazing.
Oh my God, I love her.
I'm really hoping to
Um,
have her on here at some point to help talk about healing and stuff. So I'm not
yeah,
always talking heavy shit, but yeah.
right. Um, I really am truly good. I'm blessed. I have an amazing clientele. I have an amazing business. I have an amazing
Mm.
family.
Oh.
And every day is not promised. And you
Mm.
take what you can get and you just keep moving on,
Mm.
honestly. Not having a relationship with my mom or no contact, as much as it sucks at this point, it was the best decision I could have made.
Mm. You have
And
peace
my
with that?
Yeah. And my siblings understand. And I understand where they're at with not having a
Mm.
relationship with my dad. So
Mm.
it's a respect thing. I'm not going to push it on them as much as I would love to talk to them and let them know my side. And who knows, maybe they'll listen to this, but I'm not going to push it. It's not my place. Now, if they came to me and be like, hey, let's talk, I'll be like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm not, that's what I said earlier. We all lived through it, but we all experienced it totally different. I'm not going to understand how they experienced it
Yeah.
because I lived it my way. And I
Mhm.
had to just really do soul searching with that aspect of,
Yeah.
it's never going to be a normal
Mm.
sister relationship. It's never going to be a normal mother daughter relationship or father daughter relationship. Like my relationship with my dad is not 100% perfect either.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, what
It's
relationships are?
right. Yeah. It's more open now than it was 10 years ago,
Mm.
but it took us a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And so you just take one day at a time and you do your best. And like right now, my focus is my little family cube of us three
Mm-hmm.
and my business
Mm-hmm.
and my goals and my dreams and how am I going to get there.
Mm.
So
Are you doing anything to work on those emotions from that? Are you doing any therapy, any energetic work? Are you doing stuff on your own, like meditation or anything like that?
yeah, I do journal, but it's all on my notes and it's just, and I'll just talk to it versus
Oh, that's
typing
good.
it out. Because I suck at words and I get
Mm.
emotional, it's different when you write it versus when you say it.
Yeah.
So if it can grab what I'm saying as I'm saying it in that moment, it's been a lot more healing for me.
Mm.
Because then you can, it's like voice recording or whatever is what I do. And sometimes I'll go back and listen to it and
Mm.
just to see. Sometimes I don't. I just delete them after a while or what. But it's at that moment, if I'm feeling something, I'll just do it in the car. I don't have anybody at the moment. I can just do it really quick and it gets it off my everything.
Yeah.
And it helps
Yeah.
me move past it.
It's a release.
Yeah. So I probably should go to therapy.
I don't know. To be fair, I think therapy's not for everyone. I went to a fertility specialist therapist. Oh, that was a mouthful. And I tried really hard. I went several times and I felt like all I did was talk and cry. And I felt like I could do that because I'm an open human. I'm not somebody that's bottling that stuff up because it will literally eat me alive from the inside out. That's my release, is talking about it. And I felt like I could do that with my mom, or I could do that with my sister, or I could do that with a friend. And I'm like, I don't need to
Yep.
pay them $150 an hour. Now, maybe I just didn't find somebody that was a good fit, and that's okay too. But I have found other ways that work for me for healing and releasing and things like that. And I think that's okay because everyone's different. So
Yeah.
therapy works wonders for some people and not for others.
Absolutely.
So.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
So a recurring theme that I'm seeing in so many of my interviews is, would you change what happened to you? So obviously, you wish that you'd never been molested at 14. You wish that your mom never said that she didn't want you. You wish you had a normal relationship with your mom and your family and your siblings and everything. Obviously, that would be a better option.
Right.
However, almost everybody I've interviewed and had this conversation with has said, actually, I wouldn't change it.
No. There might be some things that I would have changed, like knowing what I know now,
Mm-hmm.
I would have told my dad sooner. But would I be where I am today, emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
physically, able to have a deep connection with Amber if I would have opened that can of worms, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
earlier?
Yeah.
Because me waiting 5 years made it so I could learn how to take care of myself
Mm.
first.
Yeah.
Versus if I would have not only told my mom, but told my dad at the same time. And let's say, hypothetically, my grandfather got in trouble. Would they have gotten divorced?
Mm.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Would
Yeah.
my
I mean,
mom have been doing what she was doing with the sister after me? Who knows? When I left for college, who knows? We don't know. It's kind of like that movie with Matt Damon and, oh God, what is her name? Dark hair. And the
yeah.
guys with the hat, and there's a book, and the two people, they come together, but they're not supposed to, but like their pasts keep connecting. I can't
I don't know if
remember
I've
what it's
seen this
called.
movie.
Oh, it's such a good movie. I can't think of what it's called. But if I would have told my dad, that would have, the timeline of my future would have probably kind of broken off and went a different route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And
So,
that's what I'm finding with, asking people this question is like,
yeah,
who knows where you would
yeah,
be? I mean, we all are going to
exactly.
have our life struggles, right? We're all going
Yeah,
to have these challenges. And if it wasn't those ones, it would be something else.
exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. It's such an interesting question because
Yeah,
none of us want to suffer. None of us want to go through the hard shit. We'd
yeah,
all like to have a perfect unicorn life, but
yeah,
that's not reality. And
exactly.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's crazy because I wish I could have told my dad then. Do I think he probably would have went after him? Absolutely.
Mm,
So maybe it was best that I waited 5 years
mm,
because my dad was in a different, I don't want to say position, but life or mindset than he
yeah.
was 5 years prior.
Yeah.
5 years prior, yeah, I think he probably would have went after him
Mm,
because he hurt his daughter.
yeah, sure. For sure.
So, you know,
Yeah.
and back then, would he have gotten in trouble? If
Yeah.
I would have came forward back then, there was, like I said, there was no Me Too movement. There was no, it's okay to come out and say that so and so hurt you.
Yeah.
If I would have came out, would have it had made a difference? I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, I don't think I would. I mean,
Mhm.
I think there would be times where I'd be like, oh, I should have protected the younger two a little bit more,
Mhm.
maybe. But when my parents divorced, I was 19. I wasn't mentally there either.
Yeah.
I was just trying to survive. And then I had Amber at 21. So
well, and that's just it too, because my parents got divorced when I was 19.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I guess I could have gone back and protected my younger sister more, but I was trying to survive myself.
Exactly.
I had to process that and that event and those emotions in my own way as well. And I was lucky enough that I was old enough that I could separate myself from the whole thing to a degree. I have bits of it that I was unable to separate myself from, which maybe someday I'll talk about, but I was able to go away. I was able to leave the house. I was able to live my life and have a job and get away from it that way, where my younger sister was thrown into whatever she was thrown into. And I don't know if there was a lot I could do at that point in life to have changed that.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this up, but do you have any advice, words of wisdom, parting words, any last words you want to share?
Let's see.
Maybe for someone listening that's been in your shoes or is in your shoes.
Having somebody to talk to, for sure. My amazing husband, that got me through a lot of it. Having a point to where in your life to where you can just say, okay, it's okay to let go, or it's okay to just be done with it, whatever situation it could be. And talking about it does help, because like I've had clients who maybe not the same situation, but was similar. And so I can maybe share a little bit of my story to make them feel a lot more comfortable, and especially being in a studio where I can shut the door and you can have that like one-on-one connection.
Yeah.
So don't be scared to be open about something, but also don't be scared to let go.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so good. Oh, friend. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. That's a lot. You've been through so much, and I know you as an amazing soul. So you've overcome a lot of that, and you've broken the cycles, and you're an amazing human, and I admire you for that. So thank you so much. I love you too. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story and being super vulnerable. I do not take that lightly. I know that's really hard, and I really appreciate you so much for doing that. And hopefully someone will hear your story and find solace in it, and hopefully not feel so alone.
Yeah, exactly. We're all out there. Just got to find us and stick by us. We're going to get you through the hard stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Because life ain't easy. Life's fucking hard.
It is.
And on that note, thank you for listening. We'll see y'all on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the stories shared, please consider following us on your preferred podcast platform. Your ratings and reviews make a huge difference. They help us reach more listeners and continue bringing you engaging, insightful content. We appreciate your support and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Until next time, keep listening, growing, and sharing.